right, so tell me about this hammer there, Pat.
All right, so this is a 300-pound Bradley guided helve hammer. Bradley, I forget what year they started in business, back in the mid or late mid 1800s. This particular machine was made in 1944. This is a 300-pound model hammer. They made hammers over the course of their existence. They made hammers from a size of 15 pounds all the way up to 500 pounds. So this is a 300-pound. Bradley kind of has a reputation for underrating their equipment. So they would market it in their literature at one size, and then when you actually get one, they're bigger than they said in the paperwork. So this machine actually has a ram that's 460 pounds with the upper die in place. So it's quite a bit heavier than what the tag on the side of the machine says. The whole machine weighs about 12,000 pounds. I've got it sitting on about 10 inches of hardwood timber, and then it's got a concrete foundation that's about 4 feet wide, 5 feet deep, and about 8 feet long. I have it set up with a jack shaft, which is behind Roy there. Originally, this would have been built and set up with a. This one may not have ever run on a line shaft. The company supplied later on they supplied it a motor, a stand and an electric motor, so that you didn't need a line shaft. But the design of the machine is the same as those that were made earlier and were run off line shafts. This is run with a 10-horse motor. I have it set up with a single phase motor, and it's I think it's a 1700 RPM motor. Because that's what was available to me at the time that I set up the machine. I had to get the motor, didn't come with one. The original motors that were supplied with these hammers were an 800 RPM motor, so that you didn't have to have a jack shaft set up. I have it set up so that when it's running full out, we can get around 220 blows a minute out of it. I did it that way because occasionally I'll make runs of tongs. I sometimes teach classes to other blacksmiths on how to make tongs, and drawing out tong reins by hand is very time consuming and it doesn't add a lot of value to the learning experience. So I typically will do that ahead of time, and then we'll focus on working on the jaws, which is where there's more interest and challenge. And so running the hammer that way is good. Also, in the Mokame work I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of drawing out there. So having a fast hammer is good for that. A lot of that work is fairly thin, 210 thousandths or a little bit thicker than that. And if you're doing something like that and it's, say, 2 inches or 2.5 inches wide, you actually need a lot more power than you think you need to work something that's thin and wide. So this hammer is set up really for that kind of work. You can certainly do lots of other things with it. One of the things I really like about Bradley hammers is being that they have a slip belt clutch mechanism. You have a lot of travel in your treadle before you go from the first bit of engagement to full engagement. And that means that it's easy to make the hammer go very slow. And so this is a fantastic machine if you've never done any power hammer work before, and you want to try it out. A machine with this type of clutch system is really good to learn on. So I've had a lot of young people come and spend 1 or 2 evenings with me. They've never done any blacksmithing at all, and we decide we want to run the power hammers, and they're able to do that reasonably controllably, which is harder to do if you have a different kind of clutch mechanism where there's just a lot less travel in the treadle before you go from just the beginnings of the stroke to running full out. You can still learn to operate those machines and do really well. Lots of guys have them. But for beginners, I like this style the best.
Do these hammers have a braking system on them that you find a lot of guys will install if they don't have them on the larger overhead, like your Little Giants or your Moloch hammers? Do they have a braking system as well?
They do. It's on this machine. It's on the far side of the machine from where the camera's positioned. On the 500-pound machine, which we haven't gotten to yet, it's on the near side, so we'll be able to show that. It does have a brake system that was built in as part of the factory design. It's not an add-on. There's not a lot of contact area between the brake and the flywheel, so You don't always get an instant stop. I think on my 500-pound hammer, the brake is actually a little bit more aggressive and stops things a little sooner. For my work, I haven't noticed that to be super critical, but for some classes of work, being able to start and stop with a single blow is really helpful. I haven't needed that. You can make these go slow enough, and they're big enough that you can still get a lot of power out of a slow blow, and you have a lot of control when you do that.